Imagine this, it's 50,000 years ago. You are shivering inside a pitch-black cave, deep within a terrifying, primeval forest. Outside, a brutal, apocalyptic storm has just begun. And it's not going to stop for hours, or days. This endless rain will last for 2 solid months. The world around you is drowning, the temperature is plunging, and just outside the cave entrance, in the shadows, hungry predators are watching, waiting for your single mistake. In this drowning world, only one thing keeps you alive, the tiny fire crackling at the center of your cave. It's not just for cooking, it's your only heater, your ultimate weapon against predators, your literal lifeline. But now, there's a critical problem. Your cave is completely out of dry wood. Outside, every single tree, every single twig is soaking wet. If this fire goes out, you won't survive the next 24 hours. And in this era, there are no matches, no lighters, and no easy way to start a fire from scratch. Losing the fire meant total extinction. It was their ultimate nightmare. So, how did our seemingly primitive ancestors defeat nature's most violent challenge? What mind-blowing techniques did they invent to keep flames alive while the world was drowning? Let's step into this breathtaking journey, where death was at every corner, but human intelligence was always 2 steps ahead. Our ancestors faced a terrifying, invisible wall, the moisture trap. When humidity hits 100% during a relentless storm, it's not just the leaves that get wet, even the inside of massive tree trunks absorbs water. If you throw ordinary wet wood onto a struggling fire, it won't burn. Instead, it suffocates the coals and releases a toxic, choking smoke that can kill everyone inside the cave before the night ends. To survive this, they developed the world's first wood selection matrix. They realized that not all trees are created equal. While everything on the ground was soaked, they searched the forest for standing dead trees, trees that had rotted from the inside out while still upright. The thick, outer bark of these trees acted exactly like a modern raincoat, keeping the deep inner fibers completely bone-dry. But finding dry wood was only half the battle. The real nightmare was transporting it back to the cave through the torrential downpour without letting a single drop of water touch it. To solve this, they turned to animal hides. They would wrap the dry wood tightly inside thick, waterproof furs and strap it directly against their bare skin, using their own body heat to bake out any remaining moisture during the long trek. But what if the storm was so violent that the wind drove the rain directly into the cave? Here, early humans proved they were master engineers. They constructed calculated barriers of heavy stone and mud at the precise angle of the cave entrance. This changed the airflow, creating a negative pressure zone, a physical shield that deflected the incoming rain outward while allowing the internal smoke to escape perfectly. Yet, keeping a fire safe inside a stationary cave was the easy part. The true test of human survival occurred when the tribe had to abandon their home entirely and travel thousands of kilometers through the relentless rain. Moving fire through a downpour sounds completely impossible, right? Next, we will unlock the 2 secret, mind-blowing survival tools that still leave modern scientists completely stunned. Saving a fire inside a cave was just the first step. But true disaster struck when floods, hunger, or a dangerous predator forced the tribe to leave their safe cave and travel thousands of kilometers in a torrential storm. Open skies, fierce winds, and endlessly falling rain. In an environment like this, if you step outside with a burning torch, it won't last a minute, it will be snuffed out in 10 seconds. So, how did they carry the fire with them? This is where they discovered a bizarre biological weapon that made fire completely waterproof. This weapon was Fomes fomentarius, known today as the tinder fungus. This was no ordinary mushroom growing out of the dirt. It was a rock-hard, shelf-like fungus that grew high up on tree trunks. Our ancestors discovered that hidden inside this mushroom was a natural technology that could shield a fire from death itself. If you look at this mushroom from the outside, it is as tough as wood, completely repelling rainwater. But when you slice it down the middle, it reveals a soft, furry, spongy inner layer called amidou. Our ancestors used their minds. They took a glowing red ember from their hearth and nested it safely inside this spongy layer. What happened next was nothing short of magic. The mushroom wouldn't allow the fire to flare up or burn away into open flames. Instead, it choked the ember into a state of slow, internal smoldering. The most incredible part. Its outer skin was so waterproof that whether it rained or snowed, the coal inside remained perfectly safe. Once this mushroom caught an ember, it could smolder safely for days without producing telling smoke. When the tribe finally stopped to rest, they would simply open the mushroom, blow gently on the core, and restore the fire instantly. But the story doesn't end there. What if the journey lasted for weeks, and there was no tinder fungus along the way? For that, they engineered the world's first portable boiler, which modern archaeologists call fire pots. This was the greatest mechanical secret of their world. They would take a hollow animal horn or a small clay vessel. But it was the internal structure of this pot that was the true game changer. If you lock a smoldering coal inside a completely sealed container, it will suffocate from a lack of oxygen. But if you leave it open, the rain will kill it. Our ancestors understood this physics 50,000 years ago. They built strict layers inside the fire pot. First, they placed damp moss at the very bottom, acting as a cooling shield so the container wouldn't burn through. On top of that, they layered fresh, green leaves. Right in the center of those green leaves, they placed the glowing red coal. But to feed the fire over long hours, they placed a small piece of animal fat right over it. Think about this chemical combination. The green leaves restricted the oxygen supply just enough so the coal wouldn't burn out into ash too quickly. And the animal fat fed the ember slow, steady fuel for hours on end, acting exactly like a slow-release battery. They would seal this portable fire pot and pierce tiny, strategic holes into it so that oxygen could enter at a micro level. Through this engineering, our ancestors could walk for miles in heavy downpours, literally carrying fire in the palms of their hands. But in this master plan, there lay one tiny margin of error. A single mistake meant certain death for the entire tribe. What was that final, terrifying challenge, and who were the legendary fire keepers who guarded this flame? Think about it. Portable fire pots and waterproof mushrooms gave them the freedom to travel. But this entire technology possessed one fatal weak point: human error. If a single layer inside the fire pot shifted, if the oxygen holes became clogged, or if the vessel accidentally slipped and shattered during the trek, everything was lost in seconds. Because of this, prehistoric tribes created the world's very first, and most respected, occupation: the fire keepers. Fire keepers were not ordinary tribal members. They were chosen from the wisest, most alert, and most responsible individuals. They had only one job: they didn't hunt, and they didn't clean the cave. Their sole existence, 24 hours a day, no matter what happened to the world around them, was to keep that glowing ember alive. If they fell asleep and the fire died, they faced exile or execution. A single mistake on their watch meant the death of the entire bloodline. Across thousands of years of human history, there must have been countless tragic nights where a fire keeper failed. Imagine the heartbreaking scene: a small tribe, exhausted after 2 months of endless rain, searching for a new home. The fire keeper stumbles, and the fire pot slips into a deep mud puddle. A violent hiss echoes through the dark, and the flame is buried forever. That night, without fire, the cold and the predators would erase the tribe from history. The modern world we see today only exists because of the lucky tribes whose fire keepers refused to let the flame go out until their very last breath. Today, we sit comfortably in our modern homes. We press a button, and the air conditioning turns on. We flick a switch, and the stove ignites. We treat lighters and matches as disposable trash because they are so common. But stop and think: to our ancestors, that single, smoldering ember was their most sacred possession. If they hadn't guarded that tiny spark inside a mushroom or an animal horn through the endless rain, none of this modern world, no internet, no smartphones, no cities, would exist today. That fire wasn't just a tool, it was human hope, and the first true piece of advanced technology. By conquering the endless rain, they proved that human intellect can calm nature's most violent storms. Our entire civilization stands tall on top of that single, smoldering coal rescued from the jaws of extinction by our ancestors. So, the next time it rains in your city and your internet slows down, instead of getting frustrated, remember those ancestors who walked through drowning lands carrying fire in their hands. If you love this suspenseful journey into our forgotten history, and you want to unlock the mind-blowing science behind the world's greatest discoveries, make sure to share this video with those friends who give up at the first sight of trouble. And to stay connected with us on this incredible journey through time, hit that red button below and subscribe to Ink Explainer right now. Because the deep secrets of our past are only just beginning to unfold. See you in the next fascinating chapter.